Hello and welcome everyone to the next Foreman community demo on a very, very sunny afternoon here in Scotland, although it's been horrendous weather all over the place. Do excuse me today if I'm a little bit croaky or a little bit rough sounding. I haven't been massively well in the last week and my throat has suffered for it. So I'm going to soldier on for you and we'll get through this. It's the usual deal. If you want to join in live, you can come and chat with us on IRC or on YouTube live chat. We'll be keeping an eye on both of those places as we go through today's demo. It's going to be a fairly short demo by usual standards, but then we've got a little bit of a bonus for you at the end, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. So first things first, though, the headlines. So we have about a month ago, we picked up a new sponsor. Scaleway have given us some infrastructure for doing ARM builds and a few other bits and pieces as well. So a shout out to them for that. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate it immensely. The news a lot of people have been waiting for, 1.16 release candidate 1, I believe, will be out in minutes, possibly. Daniel is working on it right now. We obviously appreciate there's been a huge delay in this. We've pretty much missed an entire release, and there's a lot of reasons for that. However, sorry, I'm croaking again. However, we are almost at the end of that long road. Release candidates are coming out very, very soon, and we will, of course, be looking for your help in testing them. And for today, we'll be talking a bit about templates. We'll be talking a bit about roles. That's both, I think, roles in core and plugin roles as well. A little bit of Ansible as well, and a few other bits and pieces. And then right at the end, as I just mentioned, we're going to have a little bit of a bonus. I've been working on a demo box for the vertical navigation. So those of you who watched the live video we did about a month ago with Roxanne talking about the problems with the horizontal navigation and how we might go about fixing them will remember that I promised to let the community have a play with it. And that's now up and running. I'm going to show it to you today, and then I'm going to distribute details of how to go and have a play with it yourself over the next few days. And then we're probably going to set up a little bit of feedback or survey or something so that people can tell us what they think of it. Because with a change like this, it's very important that the community are happy with it. And so we really want to hear from you guys. However, that's me at the end. So we're going to start now with Marek, who is going to do a few pieces for us, starting with some roles, I think. You're muted, Marek.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. There we go.
All right. So what I'm going to start with is this roles page. So if you remember how it looked before the patch, you can see that there's a new column in here in this table called description. So basically what we do, we ship some roles by default with the Foreman. As you probably know, they are locked. That's why they are black in here and you can't click it, you can't change it. And we also start shipping some description for these default roles because sometimes it was not totally clear what they are good for. So that's why we started to display it here. Also, you can't get to the edit form of this locked role, so that we actually needed to start displaying it here. For non-locked role, you can go to the form and see the description in here, but for the locked role, you can't get into the form. And also, if you hover over the description, you see the full description if it's too long, basically. So that's one thing regarding the default descriptions. Also, if you've noticed, we also started to ship a new built-in role called Bookmarks Manager. This role is useful mostly in combination with the viewer role. So imagine you have a viewer which is able to view all the data, and they would like to bookmark some searches like this. So viewer can only view objects, so it was not possible for them to actually create a new bookmark. So with this role, user can create, edit bookmarks. And as I said, it's usually a good combo to put them together. We don't ship a role that would bundle both of these, because that's actually why we have user groups. So if you want to have kind of a viewer able to create bookmarks, you should go to the user groups and create, let's say, viewers role or something, viewers user group, and assign two roles, viewer and the bookmark manager. Something like this. Just use this user group for this purpose. Also, with the bookmarking, there was an ugly issue. If you didn't have the permission to create bookmarks, we still displayed this link here, and it led to the broken error page. So now, actually, this link is not displayed if you don't have the permission. And that's it regarding roles.
Nice and simple. I don't think we can do too much with that. So let's move on, shall we? Template auditing.
All right. So there was another change regarding the auditing of templates. As you know, we have two types of templates in Foreman Core: provisioning templates and partition tables. Before this change, when you looked at audit page, you would see entries linked to this model template. And that would be true for both our provisioning template and partition table. Now, we did a change, so whenever there's a change to the provisioning template, you see this as an extra explicit record in here as a provisioning template. So just to demonstrate that, if I go, let's say, to this partition table and do update some content in here, save it. Now, if I refresh the page, oh, sorry, I have a search active here, so let's remove that. You can see it's marked as a partition table update. Now, one thing that also this allows us to do is searching based on the provisioning template versus partition table. So I can do something like provisioning template equals to and some name of the provisioning template, and I get audits for that provisioning template. You can see that if you had some audit records for the old version, they will remain there. We didn't want to migrate it. We didn't want to touch the historic data about that. But all new changes will be separated per the type of the template. And that's it.
Super. I mean, what can you say? It's a good improvement. I think fairly unsurprisingly, there's not really any questions on that at the moment, but you never know. So thank you, Marek. Moving on, we're going to talk to Andre, who's going to talk again about roles, but this time relating to plugins. So what have you got for us?
Okay, so you should see my screen now.
Indeed.
Right. Not long ago, we decided to actually lock the rows that Foreman sees. And this was because possibly the biggest issue with having these rows open to user modifications was that users were actually really using those and modifying those. And when we did the upgrade and maybe added a few new permissions, then we were actually modifying the roles that users were using under their hands, and they were not really always aware of it. So we decided to log these roles, and now we log the roles that come from plugins as well. As you can see, the Ansible roles manager, the compliance manager, these come from plugins, from the Ansible plugin and from the OpenSCAP, and they are now logged as well. Basically, what applies to the roles from core applies here as well. So if you were using this role previously and made some modifications, then when you apply this patch, then your role gets renamed to customized compliance manager or whatever role you are using, and a new one that is logged will be created. And yeah, that's basically it.
Super. Yeah, again, this is all very, very smooth and simple, and we're going to be done in like 10 minutes today, right? Yeah, don't have a lot to add to that. Really nice, really good to have. Marek has just reminded me that I did somehow lose a slide from my slide deck. Mistakes do happen, particularly when I'm not feeling very well. And that he also had a piece to do on OpenSCAP. So if you've still got time, Marek, I'll happily have you back on for that.
Okay, just one minor thing. When I was talking about auditing, I wanted also to mention that we actually added auditing to the Foreman OpenSCAP plugin. So if you're familiar with that, there are some objects that user can modify in here. The most important one, I suppose, is the policies. So if I go to the policies and do some change in here, we can change the name, we can add a description, and just to demonstrate that, we can also change the, for example, the period, how often it should run. And just to show you that we also have audits for that now. Here you can see that the Foreman OpenSCAP policy was changed by admin, and here are basically the changes to the policy. The same works for SCAP contents and tailoring files. Reports are, it's just a report coming from the scanner, so there's no user change possible to that anyways. So we have audits just for policies, SCAP contents, and tailoring files. And it's been already released in the last Foreman OpenSCAP version. So you can start auditing your SCAP contents. That's it.
Fantastic. Lots of good auditing stuff happening here. I'm seeing comments on chat that everyone's very much in favor of more auditing. So yay for those enterprise features. All right, so we're going to move on to Sebastian, who's got a whole raft of things to show us, I think. So what should we start with? How about the login page?
Okay, just a second. So what I improved in the login page is to make it more according to the pattern fly suggestions. And one thing was that before there was loading when you click login, and it is now just a simple disable button to just prevent multiple logins at once. And notification error messages that were previously in the top right corner as notifications are now above the form to see them right away instead of...
Just so I can check, Sebastian, are you thinking you're screen sharing at the moment, or are you just talking through
Yes, I think I'm screen sharing.
No, because we're not seeing anything.
Ah, okay. Now, yes. Okay, that's much better.
Let's try that again then.
Okay, so what I improved was, as I said before, the login button was kind of loading and saying, please wait. This is now just a simple disable button. And you see already that the message is above the form, as I said before. And when you log in, Okay. If I log in, should I just go on to the next one, or?
You can if you want. I'll just quickly switch to the next slide, and then I can. You don't need to know who's looking at what on YouTube, right? And it's fine. So okay, history. What have you got?
The next one is the history for provisioning templates. That is now a bit better and improved. And if we go here to that one, we can actually. Oh yeah, that's a bug actually. Come on.
Yeah, you got there in the end.
Yeah. Okay. So now you can see the history, which now has the actions as buttons, not as links, and is less blue and a little bit more organized.
Nice, like that. And is that everything apart from Ansible? Was there something else you wanted to show as well?
No, Ansible roles paths is the next thing I wanted to show.
Okay, so yeah, Ansible roles then.
Okay, Ansible roles. So before, when you had a path like this in your Ansible roles configuration, it would fail to import them. Now this is fixed, and you can actually go ahead and import roles from both directories. Let's remove the one that is here. Come on. Okay, you can see it's now importing Pi-hole, which is in both directories, and I can update my roles and have them in different directories. That's it.
Magic. All right then. I'll just have a quick check, but I don't think we've got any comments or anything there, so this is cool. So thank you very much for that. So that brings us on to, I'm going to mute you, Sebastian, because I've got an echo. So that brings us on to the vertical navigation that I mentioned. So firstly, thanks to the presenters. It's fantastic. As I said, only a short demo this week. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But we do have this to show you instead. So I'm just going to quickly change my screen sharing over. So let me bring this over here. And then hopefully I can go to here. So I'm going to log out. I've already given it away now because I was already logged in. As you can see, I already have Sebastian's excellent new login page here. So this is all fine. So this demo box is live. It currently has a self-signed certificate. I will put the details out there on the lists in due course. But it's vertnav.demo.theforeman.org if you want to have a play with it. And login is admin and vertnav. And so we talked a bit, as I say, a little while ago about navigation in Foreman and the problems that it has, particularly when you have it horizontally, and then you add lots of menu items, or when you change the screen size and things like this. And it led to a pretty fierce debate. And so we brought some of those people together for a video a little while ago, and we talked about it, and that led to a lot of good comments and a lot of good feedback, and we took it a bit further. And then Amir from our team here in Red Hat took a lot of that feedback on board and went and produced a patch, which is currently going through review on GitHub right now. And this is the patch. I've taken a standard source install and added the patch to it, and this is what you come up with. And so I don't have a lot to show you. It is exactly what you would expect if you've been playing with 1.15. If you're already up to 1.15, you'll be familiar with everything here because there's not anything new, particularly. The notifications thing is the most recent thing we've added to the UI that's entirely new, and that's here as well in exactly the same place. But other than that, this is exactly what you'd expect to find everything. So where we had monitor before, you have it here, and then you have the hosts, and you have configure. Helps if you actually click on it. There we go. Infrastructure. The one thing that keeps catching me out is the administrative menus over here now instead of at the top right. And oh, my muscle memory cannot cope with that. And I do need to add taxonomies to this. I need to add locations and organizations, which I'm going to do hopefully this afternoon. And you'll find that up here next to Foreman, so that you can change which organization you're in up here. That's really all there is to say. You can also shrink this as well, so that it moves across. Put it back in. I don't have a lot more to add than that, really. I'm just going to mute while I need to cough really loudly. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. So, yeah, there's not a lot to say. We already went over why we think this is a good idea in the previous video, and I'll put a link to that in the description of this one. I don't really have anything to add to that, not being a UX designer myself, but I know that Roxanne has been heavily involved in the latest round of comments, and it's gone back and forth. It's been through a lot of iterations, and I have to admit it looks pretty good from where I'm sitting. It will take a little getting used to, but I do think it works. But we want to hear from you guys. This is what this is all about. If we didn't care, then I wouldn't have to build this thing. Much of what we do, we wait for people to comment on the pull requests, and then that's that. But we want to hear from everybody else. So I will be putting this out there for people to play with. It's going to have a reset system probably I'm thinking about every 3 hours. I'm going to just run through a reset. So it'll wipe the database and all that kind of stuff, and then set itself back up again. So you'll probably see some downtime, sort of 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, that kind of thing. It might be out for sort of 5-10 minutes while it kind of rebuilds itself. But other than that, it's going to stay up for people to log in, play with. You won't see any functionality you don't expect. It's not like we've changed, edit forms to wizards or anything like that yet. This is literally just a navigation change. So everything that you normally do now, it should still work. And it should all be in the same place on the same menus. They're just on the left-hand side. So there was a lot of comment on the last video. I hope to get a lot of comment on this as well, and then we can make sure that this is the way forward. I think unless there's a really strong negative feedback from the community, this is pretty likely to get in. A lot of work's gone into it. It looks really nice. It's kind of consistent with a lot of the UIs that are going on at the moment. I don't see why not, but let's ask. Oh dear, it's cold. I could be really, really done with this. So I think that's all I wanted to say about it. There's a few comments coming out already. First question was whether or not we can use this with Catello. I haven't set it up with Catello yet. That could be done. The main problem here is that this is running in a VM on the cloud that only has 2 GB of RAM. So I would need a much, much beefier machine with a public IP address before I can do that, and that costs money. So I'm currently running this on our brand new Scaleway account, which is not the biggest amount of money. It's enough to cover plenty of slaves for building packages on. But in terms of a permanent machine with lots of resources, that's going to be more expensive than we can probably run for a long period of time. So at the moment, I'm not planning to add Catella to it. I can probably add some of the more lightweight plugins that still add menu options. If people can suggest a few, I might put Discovery on there just as an example, just to show how that menu grows. Other than that, sorry. Other than that, I don't think there's there's a few people commenting on justification and so on. Absolutely fair. We'll those comments will make it back to EMEA to check out. One thing we have noticed, and I think it might be a bug in Patternfly, this one really bugs me. So if you open up the menu like this, you can see it overlaps the table, and then just for a few seconds as the next page loads, it justifies to the right. And I have no idea why it does that, and it drives me insane. So we're looking at whether we can do something about that. But other than that, I think it's time for people to go play with it. I will, as I say, I've got more to add to it. I want to add a whole bunch of database seeds, so you've got some domains, some subnets, plenty of hosts, all that kind of good stuff, public classes. But sadly, this morning I spent all morning debugging an issue with it instead of writing database seeds, so they're not there yet. Next week, though, should all be there. Details will go to the mailing list, and we really, really want to hear what you think. So I think that brings us to the end. I will repeat the credentials one more time if people want to play with it right now, although, as I say, the credentials are all going to the mailing list. That's vertnav.demo.theforeman.org. Login is admin and vertnav. That, it's just how it is. Other than that, go mess about with it. Please try not to break it too badly. And then I'll sort out the resetting. So I think that brings us to the end of the demo. I'm just going to have a look at comments. A few people just basically agreeing with previous comments about how menus scale nicely or whether we can sort out the justification, things like that. Nothing new there. So let me switch back to the slide deck. So that's the end of today's demo. Nice quick one for you today. Hopefully more content next time. And also probably the results of this survey as well, quite likely, I would imagine. But for today, that is the lot. So you know where to find us if you want us. #theforeman on Freenode, YouTube, Foreman Project on Twitter. And for today, thanks for watching and do take care.